Alright, gather round, because today I've got two Thanksgiving stories for you. One is an absolute train wreck, and the other, well, it's the kind that reminds you what the holiday is really all about. Let's start with the chaos. Thanksgiving morning on Maple Lane was usually a pretty peaceful scene. That is, until the Johnson family decided to upgrade their holiday tradition. Instead of roasting their turkey like normal human beings, Mr. Johnson proudly announced, "We're deep frying it this year. I saw it online. Easy stuff." The rest of the family just stared at him like he was about to launch a rocket into space. Mrs. Johnson, ever the voice of reason, asked, "Do you even know how to do that?" He puffed out his chest, full of misplaced confidence. How hard can it be? So they dragged this massive fryer into the middle of the yard, filled it with an ocean of oil, and lit the flame. For a moment, everything looked fine. It was calm, peaceful, almost picturesque. Then came the turkey, a huge, frozen, rock-solid bird that had absolutely no business being anywhere near hot oil. Mr. Johnson, with a look of pure, unearned confidence, began to lower it into the vat. The moment that frozen turkey hit the oil, it was like a volcanic eruption in their backyard. The oil shot up in a fiery geyser. The turkey itself blasted upward as if it had been launched by NASA. The Johnsons ducked for cover. The neighbors screamed. A dog that was just trying to enjoy its morning ran for its life. This turkey projectile soared across the yard, did a perfect bounce off their trampoline, and landed with a splat in Mrs. Lopez's garden right on top of her prize-winning pumpkins. She stormed outside, hands on her hips, her face a mask of fury, yelling, "This is the third time this year you people have hit my garden with something." Apparently, the last time it was a drone, and before that, a rogue football. Mr. Johnson, ever the optimist, picked up the smoking, slightly charred turkey and whispered, "We can still save it." Mrs. Johnson's voice cut through the air, sharp and final. "Put the turkey down." So, what was the end result of this culinary catastrophe? Instead of a grand turkey dinner, the entire Johnson family and half the bewildered neighborhood who came out to see the commotion ended up eating pizza on the porch. And you know what? It turned out to be the best Thanksgiving ever. Because sometimes the funniest disasters make for the happiest memories. As a little epilogue, the local fire department now sends the Johnsons a "Please do Aunt Cook this year" reminder every November. Now, let's switch gears to a different kind of Thanksgiving story. 9-year-old Emma loved Thanksgiving not because of the food, but because it was the one day her whole family seemed to laugh together. But this year felt different. Her dad had lost his job 2 months earlier, and a heavy silence had settled over their house. He barely talked, he barely smiled, and he hardly ever joined them for dinner anymore. Emma would see him just staring at a stack of bills, rubbing his forehead. She didn't fully understand money, but she understood sadness. So, on the night before Thanksgiving, she took a piece of paper she decut into the shape of a leaf and wrote a simple wish on it. "I wish Dad could smile again." She folded it carefully, placed it inside an envelope, and hid it under her pillow, hoping for a little bit of magic. The next morning, Thanksgiving Day, her father woke up early. He was planning to force a smile for the family, figuring they deserved at least that much. But when he walked into the kitchen, he saw Emma sitting at the table, surrounded by construction paper, markers, glitter, and stickers. She'd clearly been up for a while. "Daddy," she said, her voice bright, "I made something for you." He took the card she handed him and opened it slowly. Inside was a simple drawing of their family all, of them holding hands, standing in front of their little house. Underneath the drawing were 5 simple words. "We're thankful for you." It was a simple, childlike drawing with simple words, but it hit him harder than anything else could have. His eyes filled with tears before he could stop them. "Emma," he whispered, pulling her into a tight hug, "thank you. I needed this more than you know." She hugged him back just as tightly and said, "I just want you to be happy again." That evening, the family sat around their small Thanksgiving meal. It wasn't fancy and it wasn't big, but for the first time in months, there was a genuine warmth in the room again. And for the first time in months, Emma's dad laughed a real, genuine laugh when she told a silly joke about the turkey. Emma leaned over to her mum and whispered, "My wish came true." Her mum kissed the top of her head and replied softly, "Because you made it come true." And for the first time in a long time, Emma felt the real Thanksgiving magic in the air, not the magic of food or decorations, but the powerful magic of love pulling a family back together. So whether your Thanksgiving is full of hilarious disasters or quiet, heartfelt moments, I hope it's a wonderful one. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright, let's talk about Thanksgiving. It's supposed to be a day of peace, gratitude, and delicious food, right? Well, on Maple Lane, the Johnson family had a slightly different interpretation. Thanksgiving morning usually started with the gentle aroma of a roasting turkey, but not this year. This year, Mr. Johnson, a man whose confidence always outpaced his skills, made a grand announcement. He gathered his family in the living room, puffed out his chest, and declared, "We're deep frying the turkey this year. I saw it on the internet. It's a piece of cake." His wife, Mrs. Johnson, a woman who had witnessed many of his internet-inspired projects, stared at him with the kind of look usually reserved for someone about to juggle chainsaws. "Honey," she said slowly, "do you even know how to do that?" Mr. Johnson just waved a dismissive hand. "How hard can it be? You heat the oil, you drop in the bird. Simple." The kids, Timmy and Sarah, just looked at each other, already sensing that this Thanksgiving was going to be one for the history books. So, the great deep frying experiment began. They dragged the brand new, oversized fryer into the middle of the backyard, a safe distance from the house, or so they thought. Mr. Johnson, now wearing a ridiculous kiss, the cook apron over his puffer jacket, carefully poured gallon after gallon of peanut oil into the pot. He lit the massive propane burner underneath, and a jet of flame roared to life, sounding suspiciously like a dragon with indigestion. For a few minutes, everything was surprisingly peaceful. The oil heated up, the autumn leaves rustled, and the neighbors peeked over their fences, curious about the industrial-level operation happening in the Johnsons' yard. Then came the moment of truth. The turkey. This wasn't just any turkey. This was a 22-pound behemoth, a frozen, rock-solid bird that had spent approximately 5 minutes thawing on the counter. It was, in culinary terms, a very, very bad idea. Mr. Johnson, using a contraption of hooks and chains that looked like something out of a medieval dungeon, hoisted the frosty giant with a final, confident grin. He said, "And now for the magic," and began to lower it into the bubbling cauldron of 350-degree oil. What happened next wasn't magic. It was physics. Violent, explosive physics. The second the frozen turkey hit the hot oil, the water inside instantly turned to steam, expanding at an incredible rate. The oil shot upwards in a greasy geyser, a volcanic eruption of pure culinary chaos. A tidal wave of scorching hot oil washed over the lawn, instantly flash-frying the grass into a crispy brown carpet. The turkey itself, propelled by the force of the steam explosion, blasted out of the fryer like it had been launched from a cannon. The Johnsons dove for cover as the bird arced through the sky, a greasy, golden-brown missile on an unguided trajectory. It soared over the picket fence, did a perfect triple gainer off the neighbor's trampoline, and sailed gracefully across the street. Its journey came to an abrupt end when it landed with a sickening splat right in the middle of Mrs. Lopez's prize-winning pumpkin patch. The impact was devastating. Giant pumpkins, which she had been nurturing since spring for the county fair, exploded into a mushy orange mess. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the distant bark of a terrified dog. Then Mrs. Lopez's front door flew open. She stormed out, hands planted firmly on her hips, her face a thundercloud of righteous fury. "The Johnsons," she roared, her voice echoing down Maple Lane. "This is the third time this year you people have hit my garden with a flying object." She had a point. Last time it was a drone that had lost signal. Before that, it was a football from a championship practice. Mr. Johnson, covered in a fine mist of oil and shame, slowly got to his feet. He shuffled over to the scene of the crime, picked up the still smoking, slightly charred turkey from the wreckage of the pumpkins, and turned to his wife. With a hopeful whisper, he said, I think we can still save it." Mrs. Johnson's eyes narrowed. In a low, dangerously calm voice, she commanded, "Put the turkey down." He did, so instead of a grand deep-fried turkey dinner, the entire Johnson family, along with a few bewildered but amused neighbors and a very forgiving Mrs. Lopez, ended up eating pizza on the porch, surrounded by the smell of burnt grass and pumpkin guts. And you know what? It turned out to be the best, most memorable Thanksgiving ever. They laughed until they cried, retelling the story of the turkey that achieved liftoff. Because sometimes the most epic disasters create the happiest memories. As for the Johnsons, they now receive a friendly, preemptive postcard from the local fire department every November. It just says, "Please don't cook this year. We're begging you." But you see, Thanksgiving isn't always about explosive mishaps. Sometimes the quietest holidays are the ones that carry the most weight. Let me tell you about another family, just a few towns over. For 9-year-old Emma, Thanksgiving was pure magic. It wasn't just about the mashed potatoes or the pumpkin pie. It was the one day a year when the sound of her whole family laughing together filled their little house. But this year, the magic felt distant. A heavy silence had settled over their home ever since her dad lost his job 2 months ago. He wasn't the same. The dad who used to tell goofy jokes and initiate tickle fights was gone, replaced by a quiet, worried man who spent his days staring at stacks of bills on the kitchen table, his forehead creased with lines Emma had never seen before. He'd force a small smile at dinner, but his eyes were somewhere else. Emma didn't really understand things like mortgages or unemployment, but she understood sadness. It felt like a cold grey blanket had been thrown over her dad, and she wanted nothing more than to pull it off. So, on the night before Thanksgiving, while her parents were asleep, Emma tiptoed into the living room. She took a piece of orange construction paper and carefully cut out the shape of a maple leaf. With her favorite sparkly pen, she wrote a simple, heartfelt wish. "I wish Dad could smile again." She folded the leaf, tucked it into a little envelope, and hid it under her pillow, hoping some kind of Thanksgiving magic would find it. Thanksgiving morning arrived, and her father woke up early. He stood in front of the bathroom mirror, practicing a smile. He knew he had to be strong for his family. They deserved a happy day, even if he didn't feel happy himself. He braced himself and walked into the kitchen, expecting to find it empty. But there was Emma sitting at the table, surrounded by a colorful explosion of construction paper, markers, glitter, and stickers. She must have been up for hours. "Daddy," she said, her face lighting up. "I made something for you." She handed him a slightly lopsided, glitter-covered card. He opened it slowly. Inside was a crayon drawing of their family. All 4 of them, Mum, Dad, Emma, and their little brother, were holding hands in front of their small house. Big, loopy smiles were drawn on every face. Underneath the picture, in her best handwriting, were 5 simple words. "We're thankful for you." That was it. That's all it took. The simple words, the childlike drawing, the unconditional love pouring from the page broke through the wall he had built around his heart. He felt a lump form in his throat, and his eyes filled with tears before he could stop them. "Oh, Emma," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion as he pulled her into a tight hug. "Thank you. I needed this more than you'll ever know." She hugged him back, burying her face in his sweater. "I just want you to be happy again, Daddy." That evening, the family gathered around their small dining table. The meal wasn't fancy, just a small roasted chicken and some simple sides. But the cold, heavy feeling in the house was gone. In its place was a warmth that had been missing for months. And then it happened. Emma told a silly joke about a turkey who couldn't fly, and for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, her dad laughed. Not a small, forced chuckle, but a real, deep, genuine laugh that made his eyes crinkle at the corners. Emma leaned over to her mum and whispered, "My wish came true." Her mum smiled, kissing the top of her head. "That's because you made it come true, sweetie." And in that moment, Emma felt the real Thanksgiving magic fill the air. It wasn't the magic of a perfect meal or festive decorations. It was the quiet, powerful magic of love, and how a little girl's simple act of kindness could pull her family back together. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.